What's up, millionaires? It's your boy Millionaire E coming at you with a comic book review. Now, the comic book we're going to be talking about today is Ultimate Spider-Man Clone Saga. Now, before we get started, y'all see that Super Bowl last night? I know I did. And first, I have to say, the halftime show, amazing. I love listening to Kendrick Lamar's songs. One of the songs I always listen to is, They Not Like Us, They Not Like Us, They Not Like Us. I loved it. That was amazing. Now, when it comes to watching the Super Bowl, there are, let's say, 3 things that I like to do at the Super Bowl. Eat, watch the commercials, and watch the Super Bowl halftime show. And I will say, I was impressed with the commercials. They really moved up with it. I liked some of the quirkiness of it. Now, I will say, during the game, I got into the game because I'm not really like football. I don't like football like that. But let me tell y'all, I was disappointed. I was cheering for the Kansas City Chiefs because I was like, I knew that they had won last year. I was like, what are y'all doing? Like, bro, the amount of fumbles that they were throwing and half the quarter, two of the quarters, and they didn't make no goals. I was disappointed, y'all. But yeah. So getting into the comics, that's just a little bit. I've loved this series because I actually have 6 of these comics, including the Clone Saga. So I've got all these different series, and these things are very hard to find. And what I mean is, I found the Clone Saga on Amazon, and I was like, you know what? I finally want to get it because I love the whole clone aspect of it. Like I've read the Miles Morales clone story. I've read a little bit of the Gwen story as well. And I was just like, you know what? I want to read this. And I like this comic because I like the art style that they did with it. And I will say, as the comics got on, I researched and apparently that they changed the artist. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that because I like this art style. Let me actually just show you an example. Here's a first issue. It's just the art to it just looks, I don't know what it does. It's just I like looking at it. Now, I will say also, I wish that they could remaster the Ultimate Spider-Man game. The only reason why I say that is because I love that game because it's like the whole game, it's like the way it looked like it came out of the comic. Everything was based off the comic, and then also just the comic panels that you saw in the video game. But of course, we're not talking about the video game. We're talking about the comic, the Clone Saga. Now, before we get started, here's some of the things that I kind of have to set you off because my comic collection is a little bit of, they've got a bit of holes in it, but here are some things that you need to know before we get into the video. First thing you need to know is in issue, oh wait, that's the wrong issue. Here we go. Yeah. In issue of this one, this is volume 6. This is 33 through 39. This is during where Peter Parker meets basically Venom. He has this conversation with Nick Fury about, being a kid and feeling all this stress of being Spider-Man, but also having to juggle being Peter Parker as well. Meaning he wanted to take his powers away. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because this conversation kind of comes back in that comic. Now, also another thing. Apparently, from what I found out, is Gwen Stacy died. And I think, like I said, in one of the comics I don't have, but there are appearances in these comics that you'll see, but she apparently dies. And also, Mary Jane and Spider-Man, or Mary Jane and Peter Parker are not together, of course. I don't know if it's a whole argument about with Peter Parker's like, I can't be with you because you're a liability to me because I'm not going to be able to protect you or somebody's going to use you as an advantage to get advantage over me. But he's not with Mary Jane right now. Who he is with is Kitty Pryde, which is, in this series. And actually, this series right here, this is 91 through 96. That one is 97 through 105, I believe. So in this comic, this is him with Kitty Pryde. And also another thing, actually, is he gets bit by a vampire. Has no correlation in the comic, but what happens is he gets bit by a vampire. He's panicking. He is stressed out. And the first person he goes to is Mary Jane because Mary Jane is his friend. Now, going into the start of Clone Saga, the conversation that happens is that Kitty Pryde is, talking to him and is like, yo, why didn't you come to me first? I'm your girlfriend. So there's that whole argument that came from this comic and then in here. Now, since all that is, and also another thing is, Doc Ock is a prominent villain in this series right here. So you'll see Doc Ock you'll first see him in basically volume 3. But yes, and I don't, from what I saw, like, he apparently seems to be blind and the tentacle arms are infused in his body. And then another thing happened apparently in the comics, but I don't know if that's appeared in another comic that I have not read yet. Now, once that we got all that out of the way, let's get into this comic right here. And I will say, reading this issue first intrigued me. I was like, oh man, I couldn't not stop picking. I couldn't put it down. I had to keep on reading it. And it's very, I can't say depressing, but it's very dramatic in this comic because it's like, in some of the things, I can see that Peter is still an adolescent, meaning, unlike, grown Peter, who's like, he just knows what to do and everything. You could tell that Peter is still a kid by the way he acts in this comic. Either acting very irrational or basically, acting irrational or panicking, not knowing what to do. The reason why I say this is because in this comic is, first thing is, he's arguing with Kitty Pryde because Kitty Pryde is on his butt, kind of like, yo, why didn't you tell me first? Because she's hurt. Because she's his girlfriend, and he went to Mary Jane. Which I can understand that. Now, I will kind of also emphasize a little bit more about that, how I felt about that. But, and then, of course, he has to fight this villain, basically, Scorpion, which ends up looking like him, which drives him into this, like, panic mode. Where you also, I didn't even mention, you get to see the X-Men, and you'll see the Fantastic Four, which is cool. So it's really interesting with the comic. The art styles are really cool. You get to see the characters. Now, I will say, some of the things that I will say, I wouldn't say I didn't like, but I will say, I would have had to, if I was in this situation, it'd be a little bit different. And what I mean is in this comic, of course, you can see, of course, on the cover, there are, I believe that's 4 clones that are created. Actually, 5, but I'll explain that. 4 clones. 4 clones that are created, apparently, kind of what I got out of the book was, created by the FBI. Because the FBI does not trust Nick Fury to, because Nick Fury is untrustworthy almost. So they want to create their own superheroes, kind of like Captain America, what they stated in the comic book. And they want to have those heroes to the side. Now, kind of spoiler alert if you're going to read the comic, the person who they hire to do this is Doc Ock himself. And that's where I get into the whole, okay, yeah, if this was me, I would have done something different. Now, I mean, what Peter did, I'd probably do the same thing, but I'm like, I might have been a little bit worse. And the reason why I state this is because in this comic, basically, Doc Ock is like, listen here, I created these clones for my own work. And if these clones did anything to ruin your life, in any aspect, it's not my fault. And for me, I'd be like, okay, listen here, Mr. Dr. Octopus. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this man, like I said, he created 4 clones that look like Peter Parker. One of the clones gender bent to be, Jessica Drew. Another clone, he aged up to be Peter's father. And imagine that. Peter, you have this whole conflict scene where Peter Parker, Jessica Drew, or, Peter Parker's clone, they're standing here and Doc Ock's explaining everything. And Doc Ock's like, huh, you thought that was your dad? Oh my God, you're dumb. You're dumber than you look. That's a clone. And then just have the audacity to say, "Oh yeah, this was just me doing work. This had nothing to do with you. And if it did, oh well." I'm like, I would have flied off the handle because I'm like, okay, first of all, you create a clone because not only the whole thing is, yeah, not only did he create the clones, but it caused a massive emergency when like Nick Fury found out. Because when Nick Fury found out, he went after Peter Parker, which caused Aunt May to have a heart attack. Which of course Peter Parker's also panicking about that. A whole bunch of things happened in the comic, which was like, oh geez, like. So I'd be like, yo, nah, you finna catch these fists, because I'm like, okay, nah, you ain't just gonna ruin my life like that. Now, I will say there are some other things that like I said, I like the comic. It was really good. I like to see the different types of the clones, the different kind of clones and how they interacted with each other. The only thing is, I was like, they died a bit too fast. Some of them. Now, some of the things that I will say I did not like, or I'd say I wish could have been done a little bit better, was one of the things was kind of, I didn't feel like it was thrown in there. Well, no, it felt like it was thrown in there. So, while this is happening, basically, Peter Parker's panicking. He comes home, MJ gets captured. He comes home to Gwen Stacy. And as I told you, or if I didn't tell you, Gwen Stacy died in these comics. So he's like, whoa, I thought you were dead. You a ghost? She's kind of like, oh my God, I don't know. I just was walking around the street and I found your house. So that's a little bit weird. But when Nick Fury comes with, what he calls the Spider Slayers, because it's a contingency plan, Gwen Stacy has this panic attack, which then turns into Carnage and runs and attacks, like goes out there and causes a rampage. Now, of course, if anybody in the comics can explain to me if this appeared in one of the issues of the comics that in a volume of a comic that I didn't see, I was like, it's kind of weird. It was interesting to happen. And we find out that she was a clone, of course, but they were doing some experience. And I was like, I wish they emphasized on that a little bit. And then also another thing was, I feel like Kitty Pryde was done dirty in this comic. And what I mean is, they played Kitty Pryde to me as she was a brat and kind of nagging girlfriend. But then I'm like, I will say some of the things that Peter did in this comic, I was like, okay, look, bro, I understand you got bit by a vampire and that's crazy and you're still alive, you're not a vampire. The first person you don't go to is the first person you're gonna go to is like your guy friend. You'd be like, look, yo, bro, this happened. That's fine. He went to Mary Jane, who previously had a relationship with him, which is already kind of problematic, and is like, oh my God, I had a whatchamacallit, and he didn't go to his girlfriend. So I'm like, that was a little bit, for me, like, okay, bro, that's, and then I feel like she got done dirty because they made her, and I don't know if they did this purpose, she went through the mud to go for him. Like, there was one scene in this comic where she actually basically was like, yo, Peter's in trouble. We need to go to Brooklyn. And Xavier's like, we can't do that. That's out of our jurisdiction. She went up to him and literally was like, if that was your girlfriend, you do the same thing for her. And bam, they went. Just for her to, see that, Peter's nowhere to be seen. And then at the end of the comic, to see Peter making out with Mary Jane and then leaving, which was like, bro, dang. She got her heart broke. So I'm like, I do like, kind of in summary, the comic is really good. I'm like, honestly, I didn't even talk about it. The size of the comic compared to, like, let me see, compared to another one, it looks slightly thicker, but I'm like, I like the design of the comic. Also, I didn't even show you, this is like the cover of it. It almost kind of looks like a notebook almost, because you see you've got that Ultimate Spider-Man there on the back. I don't know if there's anything on the front, and then on the side it's just comic, which was really cool. So yeah, the art style was cool. It was cool to see like some of the characters like X-Men. Like, I will say also, Sue I don't know. I've never really read like the Fantastic Four comics, but Sue felt almost not like a mother figure. She almost felt like almost like an older sister figure to Peter. And I mean, I know she's probably like older than him because Johnny also was like, oh my God, that's Peter Parker. We went to school together. So yeah, the comic's pretty nice. And I'm thinking about getting some more of those comics. So I do encourage you to check out this series. And then also check out the Clone Saga. It's really good. It's, like I said, a bit traumatic, but yeah, a really good series after all. And remember, y'all, like the video, share with your fam. And if you're subscribed, click that bell icon to be notified for more videos. I'll see you on the next video, y'all. Bye, y'all. Have a blessed day, millionaires, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.